Ladies and gents, welcome to the latest episode of 5v4 Introducers. This week, I'm buzzing to be joined by Third Channel Mike. Mike, welcome in.
Thank you for having me, 5e.
Oh, anytime. We've been talking about this for a little while, and it's good to finally get a time where we can both make it happen.
I was gonna say between work, time zones, and just family. Both of us are going through the struggle.
I know.
Trying to arrange something.
I know. Time zones seem to always be the killer, because I guess by the time you guys stateside, especially if you've got kids, by the time you guys are starting to settle down and stuff, it's like it's bordering midnight and beyond, by which time I'm like, I can't do podcasting at midnight.
Yeah.
The kids would be straight in like, Dad, you just be quiet.
Yeah. I don't finish work most days until 1 a.m. your time. So like I work crazy schedule. I work 8:30 to 7 Monday through Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And so and my kids go to bed at 9 o'clock. So from 7 to 9, that is like when I get all of my dad and husband duties.
I've got 2-hour cram session.
Husband, yeah, and do whatever I need to. And then at 9, everybody goes to bed. My wife goes to bed at the same time. So that's when I'm like, yeah, I can finally play. And everybody in the UK, you guys are like, it is 3 or 3:30, and it's not happening on a Tuesday, buddy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it gets real difficult. The nice part is I have Fridays off, so I get to do I can do stuff like this, and that's I usually stream on Fridays so that I'm able to interact with UK, just friends and stuff.
Yeah, you can do that a little bit earlier then, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was part of it, kind of obviously streaming last night and not starting until midnight my time. I was like, I need to do something to find, to be able to chat to the people I don't normally get to. So, but it's a struggle. But how do you fit it all in? Because obviously the kids thing is probably the biggest demand outside of work, or I find that anyway. But how do you manage to kind of fit everything in and keep everybody happy?
Well, the priority is my wife. If she's happy, my household is happy.
It's very true. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah, exactly. True words were never spoken. She always tells me, she's like, I want you to be the head of the house. And I'm like, please, we all know exactly how this goes. And my kids will even be like, okay, Mom, sure.
Vote of confidence right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dad's the one buying $200 worth of Christmas lights. Sure.
I feel there's a story behind that.
It's not. We moved into our house in August of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an old farmhouse. Our house was built in 1896, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So old for American standards. I know you guys over in UK, you're like, yeah, this is bit from 14 something. I'm like, okay. But so we have an old farmhouse, and my wife absolutely adored the house since the day we first saw it. And her big thing was, when we lived in Arizona, Christmas would come around, but it didn't feel like Christmas because it's not wintertime ever out there. The lowest it gets is like 70 degrees during the day.
Yeah.
And so, or 70 Fahrenheit, just so if anybody in the UK is watching.
It just thinks you live in an oven.
And yeah. So no, it's 70 Fahrenheit, but yeah, people are walking around in like flip-flops, sandals, shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when we bought our house up here, she's like, I'm going all out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, that's fine. Go all out. It's our first Christmas up here. But she keeps continuing the trend. It's just every Christmas, she's like, I'm going all out. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't we do that last year? And we have a nice big basement with like a storage area.
Yeah.
But the basement is mine. That's like my room in the house. That's where I keep my game collection, board games, things like that. And that's where I have my arcades. And but she's always like, well, we can just put it in the basement. And I'm like, we're running out of room already. 2 years into having the house. So I'm just like, so yeah, right now I've got like 6 huge tubs of just like Christmas lights, decorations, wreaths, things like that. They're just sitting across from like where I'm supposed to have kind of my guy
Your man cave.
Yeah, my man cave. Exactly. That's really, I mean, that's the story behind that. But otherwise, yeah. So, but getting back to your question, if she's at peace, then it makes my life a lot easier. And if she's given me the hint of like, hey, you haven't been like hanging out with the kids, or you've been playing games too much, or you come to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning each night, and I'm like, yeah, I really got to stop. I got to take a day off from that.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, and it's something that we've talked about. And the agreement is usually that I'll stream longer on Fridays. I'll stream usually 3 to 4 hours. I try to get that in, and that's supposed to be like my uninterrupted time.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday nights, I try to stream. She has a Bible study that she goes to. Usually the kids are kind of doing their own thing. They're old enough to do their own thing now, so that's when I could stream. But you know how life goes is all of a sudden it's like, hey, Tuesday night we have dinner plans with so and so, and I'm like, that's supposed to be my stream time. And so I end up streaming whenever I can / feel like.
Yeah.
Because you know, setting up a stream, sometimes you got to go and like you even with a PlayStation, you've got to like get the camera, make sure the camera's in position. Like mine's in my living room, and so I have to get it, like I have to pull it out because she's like, I don't want that stuff being like wires everywhere and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got to get that all pulled out, set up, find a spot that the light hits me so I don't look like some sort of gargoyle. And then my biggest struggle is like all day I'll be like, I'm gonna stream this game, I'm gonna stream this game, I'm gonna stream this game, and it comes time and I'm like, nobody's gonna want to see me play this game. Nobody wants to, like, how many billions of people are doing Fortnite right now? Are people really gonna want to play Fortnite again? Which, I mean, it's not like I'm not trying to like pull in viewers all the time and stuff, but I do like to have people in there just so I can get chat going.
Yeah.
If I have an active chat, I'm super happy. And if it's only like 1 or 2 people, I'm still happy with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if she's at peace and I'm feeling motivated enough, then I definitely get on. Once I get going though, I don't want to stop. And next thing I know, I'm usually like 2 or 3 hours in, and I'm like, man, I feel like I just got started going.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I've got to go to bed because it's 1 a.m. or something.
Yeah. So. Once you get going, there has to be something in the back of your mind that I still have to be an adult tomorrow and be able to function.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've got to be able to at least keep one eye open while I'm working.
Absolutely.
Just for experience's sake.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's
so she's the key to everything.
She is the gatekeeper to everything.
Yeah. Gatekeeper and voice of reason.
Yeah, and she is the voice of reason, because if like me, I'm 36 years old, but I would still like act like I was 20 again. If it wasn't for her, I'd still be like, even though I know I have to work at 8:30 in the morning and I work 10-hour days, I know that I would still stay up on like until like 3 in the morning play, and I would look at the clock and be like, yeah, I can definitely live off of like 4 or 5 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. But by Thursday, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna die now. Like, there's no way. And I mean, the same with my diet is like, I'd be like cramming pizza rolls and Mountain Dew all the time, and she's like, no, we're gonna have salad for dinner time. Like, that's probably for the best. Somewhere deep down in like my body, I can hear my body actually going like, yes.
Yeah.
Just for something a little more nutritional. So
I'm so glad it's not just me. Like, I'm 37 and I've had people, when I say that I stream and stuff like that, like people of a similar age who just don't game, they don't get it, have turned around to me and been like, don't just kids do that? Aren't you too old? I'm like, no.
Like, yeah, exactly. That's not it. Actually, when I think Mosey told me you were around my age, and I was like,
Mhm.
no, I was like 5E's like 30 at max. So
Yeah,
you definitely carry it a lot better than I do. I got the gray in my beard. I got the
it's a strategic camera placement, I think. I found the spot where I don't look as old.
there you go. Yeah, there's several mirrors for me.
Yeah,
Bouncing
just need to
light
find
off.
one with a filter next.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That'd be
Um,
work a
no,
treat.
but I get that all the time. I get it from a lot of people where people at work actually, like they'll be like, oh, what are your plans? And I'm like, well, tomorrow I'm gonna stream, and they're like, stream, and I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, what do you do? I was like, I play a video game, and
Yeah.
I have a little camera that shows me, and then I talk to people who come into the chat, and that's pretty much like that's streaming.
Mhm.
They're like, but don't like don't like teenagers do that? And I'm like, yeah, probably. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some. I was like, but I've seen streamers who are in their 50s. So
It, it's brilliant. Like I think it's just those people that don't have an interest in gaming don't realize necessarily how big streaming games is.
yeah,
But like the person that was saying to me, like, oh, like, aren't you too old? Do you not need to just grow up and all this? Like they'll then have like an Instagram account for their home. And I'm like, all they're doing is just creating the same sort of stuff, but different subject matter. So you'll take photos of your house, and yes, it looks brilliant. Fair play. All I do is just sit in front of the camera and play a video game. And it's just different audiences, but it's still a similar concept.
yeah.
Um, it's just that stigma that we just need to get rid of gaming's for kids. But I think it's getting there gradually.
It's definitely more accepted than it used to be. Because I remember, like, if you played video games when you were a kid, it was you were a geek or a nerd or something like that. Like, and I was kind of like an exception because I've always loved sports growing up.
Yeah.
I still love sports to this day, but I was like the guy when I played football in high school. I would go to football practice, American football, by the
Yeah.
way. But I would go to football practice, finish up, and then I'd go home and play video games
Mhm.
until it was time for bed. And that was just I always combined the two, so I never saw that there was like a difference in people.
Yeah.
I was a weird oddity though, like just a heavy gamer and I always loved sports. So
No,
but
exactly
yeah,
the
now you
same.
see it like all the time. There's so many people who are like they show athlete. I mean, Fortnite's got the event with NBA.
Yeah.
It's literally combining the two. So
There's even pro athletes are now being signed by esports teams as well, aren't they? Kyler Murray got signed by FaZe.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly. I mean, it's just um, it took a long time for gaming to become mainstream,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's definitely picked up a lot more
Oh,
than. But I always say, like, when it comes to streaming, I think I was born about 10 years too late because I was like, man, if it had been around when I was like 19, 20,
oh, I loved it.
I probably could have made it my full-time job.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
would have loved it. So you mentioned you're in Illinois now, right? But you
Yeah, just about 40
were,
minutes outside of Chicago.
and you were in Arizona. So how did that all come about? Where did you initially grow up? And
So I was born and raised in Illinois. I was actually born in Chicago. Moved to the suburbs when I was a little kid. Grew up in the suburbs when I was 20. When did I get engaged? Yeah, I was 20 when I got engaged. My wife was originally from Florida, and she does not like winter. She doesn't like cold. She doesn't like being cold at all. And she's a woman who does not tolerate things she doesn't like. And being cold is the biggest one. So she was, um, when we got engaged, she's like, we need to move somewhere warm. I'm sick of Illinois and I'm sick of the cold. And I was kind of like, well, I'm born and raised here. I'm good with like this is all I've known.
yeah,
Um, and I had family out in Arizona, and my aunt, I was just talking to her one time. like we were sending emails or something. She's like, "Well, come out and visit in Arizona and see how you like it out here," because my wife's family is from Florida, and she wanted to move to Florida, and I don't deal with humidity well at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, a gentleman of my carriage does not like being sweaty or anything like that.
That was brilliantly put.
Yeah, I don't like humidity. I don't like feeling sticky, things like that.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's a dry heat, go to Arizona. So we went to Arizona in March of 2005 to visit family. She absolutely fell in love with it because Arizona in March is gorgeous. It's like,
yeah,
it's just super perfect weather, and it's dry. It's not humid at all. So, it doesn't feel quite as hot.
Yeah.
I say that. So then she applied for a job out there. And I was kind of like pushing off moving anywhere. And I was like, maybe if I can just, we're engaged. So maybe if I can just push off to like the wedding and we're moved in together, then we're kind of like committed to a place.
Yeah.
And she applied for a job out there, and she had one interview, and she's like, I think I might have it. And I was kind of like, okay. And I said, if you get the job, then we'll move out to Arizona.
Yeah.
And she had another interview, and then she didn't hear anything for 2 months. And I thought I was completely in the clear. And 2 months 2 months goes by, and she calls me and she's like, I got the job. And I'm like, what job? And she's like, the one in Arizona. We're moving to Arizona. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they call you? 2 months goes by. Like, she's like, yeah, I start in November, and this is like October time. She's like, I start in November. I start in a month. And your aunt said I could stay with, like, we can stay with her until we find a place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, in like a month and a half, I'm packing up my life and moving to across the country.
It's a big change.
So, yeah, I lost a bet. That's pretty much how I ended up. Was I gambled on it, and I don't lose too. I don't gamble much, but I usually gamble when I know I'm gonna win, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I really didn't think I was gonna lose that one. So we moved to Arizona. I got married in June of 2006. And then we lived out there for about 10 years until June of 2015. We were actually, we came back to Illinois. I just, we're very active in our church, and
yeah.
I just kept getting this feeling, and I was telling her, and I was like, I just got this feeling that we're getting called by God to go back to Illinois. And she kind of did like the same thing that I did when talking about moving there. She's like, okay, well, we'll see. And
she lost a bet.
But she bet against God. So
there's some tough odds.
Yeah, exactly. So but it was just, we had a lot more. I mean, I don't really look too much into signs for things like that was a sign or anything like that. But a lot of circumstances happened where it just lined up too conveniently for it to be anything else.
Yeah.
And so it finally lined up, and she's like, okay. She kind of did like the whole, like, if this thing happens, then we're going to go back to Illinois. And
yeah,
I forget exactly what it was, but it happened, and we're like, okay, we're moving back to Illinois.
Here we are.
And, and so now we're back up here. We had to, but while we were saving some money, we stayed with my mom for a while. So that was a whole experience, because it was 4 of us living in 1 bedroom together. Yeah, and
stressful. I can imagine.
2 little kids. Yeah, it was stressful all around. But God bless my mom, because she took us in, and she never once complained about us being there, when I know she going from like just her having her own place to having all of us there. And yeah, so I'm super thankful to my mom every day that she took us in. But now we have our own place, and it's actually only like 10 minutes from my mom's house, so it's all good.
Yeah, best of both worlds then.
Yeah, exactly.
So is this kind of you guys settled now? Is this going to be it for the foreseeable, or do you think the warm climate will pull you back out somewhere?
I told my wife, I was like, the only way I'm leaving this house is feet first, in a body bag or in a box or something. That's the only way that I'm going. I'm done. I hate moving.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's absolutely the worst. And it was the house that we got is just too perfect. It was exactly what both of us wanted, even with a few things we didn't know that we wanted. And so, like, she's always loved older homes, and we're like, this house is older than time itself. And I wanted a multi-level house because I wanted to be able to, our house in Arizona was one level, and just me, her, and the kids were like always tripping over each other. Now we have multi-levels. Everybody can kind of be in their own room, do their own thing, and we're not on top of one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just everything how it worked together is just too perfect for us to. So her and I are like, this is it. This is our forever home.
This is it.
Yeah. So I
brilliant.
said it would literally take an act of the Almighty to get me out of this house.
Let's touch wood. You're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not going. So, and by act of the Almighty, I mean it would take a lot of money from a real like a lot of money to get me to move anywhere.
And now is she just trying to heat the house with Christmas lights when the winter comes? Is there that many?
You know, man, it seems like it. Like it. What is it? Like last year, she was like. She just casually said to me one day, she's like, how many Christmas trees do you think we need? And I was like, well, you put an S at the end of tree. So that's plural. You've already said Christmas trees. And I was like, most people have the one. And that's it. And she's like, nah, we could do one in the living room. We could do one upstairs.
Yes.
We could do one. And I was like,
I like your wife already. I'm such a Christmas geek.
I love how excited she gets for holidays. Because I would do the thing like when I was 20 years old, I'd be like, nah, I don't care. Like some stand-up tree, like on a desk in a corner or something like that. That would be me. But she gets so into it, and the only time that I'm like grouchy about it is when I have to haul the boxes upstairs. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went and we have like, I don't know if you have them over there. We have garage sales or yard sales, things like that. She went out last summer and she calls me and she's like, hey, I'm home. I need you to help me unload the car. I'm like, what'd you get? Like, you just went garage sales. What did you get? Like, what needs me? You should be like picking up like little knickknacks or things like that. Like, wait until you see this. And I go out and I open the trunk of our van, and there's like two or three huge containers. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And she's like, wait until you see it. Wait. And everything was wait. And I was like, wait until I've brought it all inside so I don't feel like hauling it back out when I'm screaming at you. So she's like, wait until you see it. So I bring it inside and I open the container, and it's just like it looks like pine needles. And I'm like, what the hell is this? She's like, it's our new Christmas tree. I'm like, we just got the year before, like not even a year before. This was last summer. So it was, I mean, it had been like 6-7 months removed from Christmas. And I was like, we just got a brand new tree for our new home. Like, what is, why did you go and buy another tree? She's like, you need to see this tree. Just wait. And then, so I was like, well, I'm not seeing the tree in the summer. I'm not putting it together. And she's like, I can't wait. And I was like, how do you even know this works? And she's like, oh, the lady who sold it to me, like, plugged in the light so it lights up. And I was like, okay, whatever. So a couple months go by, it gets to be Christmas time. And she's like texting me like every day since mid-November. Like, when can we put up the tree? When can we put up the tree? When can we put up the tree? Now, when she says we, like, she'll say something like, oh, we'll
Means
help
you.
Yeah, we'll help you move. We'll help you lift.
Yeah.
We'll help you clean out your garage. And then what it is her talking to my buddies' wives or something like that. And
Yeah.
just getting all kinds of dirty and like cleaning stuff or lifting stuff. So when can we put up the tree turned into, of course, was when will you put up the tree?
Yeah. And then she decorates it.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of our agreement. Is I'm like, if I'm putting this thing together, and she wraps every ornament individually and stuff, and I'm like, I don't care. I was like, give me like give me 3 sentimental ones that I'll put on for pictures and stuff like that. But that's kids. That's your thing. So
sounds like a good deal.
I think it was like the day after. I think it's the day after our Thanksgiving, which is usually end of November. I was like, I think I'm just gonna put up the tree now. Let's see how it looks compared to the old tree. Because if it's just a piece of crap, then I'll say I told you so. And then and I put together this tree, and I sent her a picture, and I'm not lying when I'm like, this tree took up like a quarter of our living room. It was massive. It was like 8 or 9 feet around at the base. I mean, it was just absolute, like,
I love it.
Out. It was so big, but it was just tall enough that it reached our ceiling. So it was like I just had to fold something down to put a star on top. But it was so wide, and like, I send her a picture.
I love it.
She texts back and she's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I was like, this thing is so huge. We have no room for like anything else. And yeah, and she's like, yeah, but this is like the best $50 I ever spent. And I actually took out the instructions. The lady still had the original instructions, which I was super impressed, because the copyright date on it was 1985.
Wow.
Yeah, it was made in 1985. Like, it didn't have there. I mean, it was legit because there's no web address on there or anything like that.
No.
So I was like, holy cats! Like, this tree is old enough to go to war and die. Like this tree can serve its country and rent a car and drink and all kinds of stuff. But I was just like, this tree is so big and so old. But she absolutely adored the tree. I was like, well, what are we going to do with the old one? She's like, oh, we'll put it out, and we have a covered front porch. And she's like, we'll put it out on the front porch. I was like, I'm not building 2 trees. Like, because for me, whenever I build, I just look at, okay, in a month, I got to take it all down. And
yeah.
But yeah, she gets on.
I love it.
Yeah, we've got an archway, and we put lights and tinsel and stuff all over the archway, and she's just
amazing.
Yeah, she just so much shit, man. Just so much holiday stuff.
Amazing. Like, I love it. Like, I was brought up and Christmas was such a big thing. My mum still keeps her Christmas tree decorations in a box that housed a Ghostbusters headquarters toy from like, must have been a force. It would be like 1987. So she's still got this original box from the Ghostbusters headquarters that houses all of the Christmas tree ornaments and stuff.
Amazing.
But like, now I'm just kind of like, let's get the tree up as soon as humanly possible. Like, this is no word of a lie. My tree was up before Halloween.
Well,
And I wasn't even first in the street.
what?
There's a lady over the road beat me to it. Yeah. We were just kind of sat there, like we'd had some dinner and stuff, and I just said, kids, should we just put the tree up? And they're like, yes. I went, right, come on, let's go and get the stuff. Tree went up like mid-October and it stayed up until January. I think it was kind of lockdown played a part as well, because we weren't doing anything. It was kind of, we need some, let's put the tree up, let's get excited for something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was brilliant.
That's good. Yeah, like I said, I mean, she gets so excited for Halloween is like her next big one. And she so like she started getting decorations for that, and I'm like, I just keep looking at space in the basement that I'm losing. I mean, I love how enthusiastic she gets about it. So, and she gets into it, and the kids get really into it, and I'm like, well, if they're all into it, I better not be the party pooper. So, yeah,
goes back to that happy household, doesn't it? So
everything revolves around that. Yeah, if everything's calm in the household,
the best way.
Yeah.
So you mentioned growing up, you're big into sports. We'll go into the game and bit in a second. But you mentioned playing football. What position did you play?
I was offensive right guard and defensive right end. And I
oh, nice. Played both ways.
Yeah, I played both positions. Now the only thing is that my backup for both sides, not my backup. I was the backup for a guy named Rob Ninkovich. He has 2 Super Bowl rings with the New England Patriots. So
yeah,
my playing time was a little bit limited because Rob was a physical. In high school, he was a physical specimen, and then when he got to college and the pros, I mean, he's like 10 feet wide. Honest to goodness, though, one of the nicest people that you could ever meet. He actually lived across the street from a really good friend of mine. We'd ride the bus together, and he's just incredibly nice guy, super humble. Like, it was funny though, because he talked about like going to the NFL one day, and we were just kids from New Lenox, Illinois, which is like, a South Chicago suburb, and we're all, we were like, nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going to the NFL from New Lenox. It's not like we were like, even one of the top teams in the nation for high school football. So we would just kind of like joke around, and we'd kind of tease him a little bit, and he sure as shit showed all of us. Because he's got absolutely 2 rings, and I read like like 2 or 3 years ago he retired, and I'm like, I've still got like 30 years till that. So
he definitely told you.
Yeah, if you're watching this, A, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time, and B, you win. Because you showed...
We're totally gonna have to tag him in this when it goes out.
Yeah.
That's such a good one, though.
Yeah. So
did you play any other sports growing up?
I played baseball, like organized baseball. I played soccer for a year, and I played a lot of roller hockey. So we were on rollerblades, stuff like that. I absolutely loved playing roller hockey. At the moment I could put my rollerblades on, they were on my feet 24/7 through the entire summer. And good part was, like, the area that we lived in, all the kids wanted to play. So we would set up goals in the street, do the whole Wayne's World, like, car, and pull it out of the way, and then game on. And I absolutely, and we lived that life, and it would be every year. I mean, played probably like 7, 8 years right in a row until, some of us got older, things like that. And to this day, hockey's still my absolute favorite sport.
Yeah, that's translated into, you're a big Blackhawks fan, right?
Absolutely. Chicago Blackhawks, yes. If you got trivia lined up for me, I'm not going to be great at it. I'm not going to lie.
You're off the hook. I don't.
I was going to say, if you had UFC trivia, I probably could have done UFC trivia. I wrestled for a bit when I was in school. Growing up, I was a WWF wrestling fan, Hulk Hogan, all that jazz.
Oh, we'd have been the same era as well.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, that went on into like my mid-20s, where I was just heavy into like absolutely loved wrestling. Even wore like replica belts to my wedding. Like
that is amazing.
There's pictures of me and my buddies, and after we've had it's towards the end of the night and we've had quite a few drinks. But we're all standing around and got these big belts on our shoulders, around our waists and stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
whose idea was that, by the way? Like, who thought, we're going to Mike's wedding, don't forget the belts? Like, I'm going to wedding. Is that you?
That was me.
I love it. Have you got the rings? Yeah, but have you got the belts? Like,
yeah, have you got actually? I remember. So I remember one of my cousins was an usher, and I was like, "Hey, my belts are out in the car. I need you to go." I tossed him the keys, and I was like, "I need you to go grab my belts and bring them in here." And so, so he had to carry around all those belts. But
that is brilliant.
I loved wrestling. I loved like the whole stage presentation, ring entrances, things like that, and championship belts I just think are like the coolest trophies out there. So I mean, I remember I turned like 18 or 19. I was able to finally get a credit card, and like the first thing I bought was a replica wrestling belt. It was like, what was that? It was like $300 and worth every single dime.
That is brilliant.
And I was so excited because I mean, at that point, I had loved wrestling since I was like 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
So I had been watching it for years and years. I was so heavy into it. And I remember the day it got delivered, I woke up because I heard the doorbell ring because the UPS driver was delivering it. And I got so excited, I ran into the bathroom and threw up.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was just absolute, like, my mom thought I was like ill. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, just give me the box." And
that is amazing.
Like, oh my gosh, were you so excited that you threw up? I was like, yeah, it's okay, I'm fine. Just give me the box.
Oh, that is such a good story.
I was just crazy for it. And then I loved it. And then a couple of my buddies, we all were into it growing up. Thankfully, I've had the same best friends for my one friend. He's been my best friend for, it'll be 32 years this year. My other best friend, both of them were, I had two best men at my wedding.
Yeah.
He's been my other best friend for it'll be 28 years this year. So I'm thankful I've had such good friends for a long time. But we all grew up loving wrestling together, and so like we all got belts and stuff, and then I got engaged, and I'm 20 years old when I got engaged, so like we're wearing the belts, right? And it's like, yeah, absolutely wearing the belts. We're making all the mature decisions that come along with marriage.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, we did that, and so yeah, there's pictures of like me and my wife, and we're walking into the reception, and you can see like under my tux jacket is a big ass belt.
Yes, that is so good. That is so good. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Of all time, Mick Foley. He
good choice.
Cactus Jack. And,
Dude Love as well.
Dude Love, yes. And I absolutely loved Mick Foley.
Yeah.
and when his book came out, I stood in line for like 2.5, 3 hours to get his autograph.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and I my buddies tell the story, and I get bashful about it because I was acting like such an idiot. Um, Not like rude or anything, but I was very starstruck when I met him, and he was a very nice guy. I mean, he had been sitting there for 2 hours signing autographs, saying hello to people,
Mm.
um, and he was eating beef jerky off, like he had a Slim Jims or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he had a jerky in his hand. He took a bite of it, and then he signed the autograph. And he turns to like the two security guys that are next to him. He's like, "Jerky, jerky," and then he looks at me and he's like, "Jerky," and I was like, "Oh no, thanks." And then like I said thank you and left. And my buddies come up to me and they're like, "Did you say no to Chipotle?" And I was like, "Yeah." Am I a fucking idiot? And they're like, "Yeah, you're real dumb, dude." So I was like, "No, I was just like, no, you can have it."
Yeah.
So
He does strike me as such a nice guy, though. Like, he seems
yeah,
just genuinely down to earth. And it's
yeah,
so nice because he put on some amazing matches.
he was just like he was when he wrestled. I mean, he wasn't like, I mean, getting into it, he wasn't like super technical. It wasn't like he was like Bret Hart or
Mhm.
even like Shawn Michaels, things like them. But he put on matches that you just they were really brutal,
Yeah,
and
the
that was the
cell
thing.
matches always stick out, don't they? Like
Yeah, of
the
course,
off
the
the
Hell
top
in
of
the
the cell
Cell.
thing,
Yep.
it's iconic.
Yeah, the Hell in the Cell. But even before that, like I actually did a report on him when I was in high school about like um, when he would wrestle in Japan and he was in Japanese death matches with Terry Funk.
Mhm.
And they were just, it was like a lot of the stuff that when you talk to people and like, isn't wrestling fake? It's like, well, how do you fake that?
Yeah,
Like, how do you fake falling 20 feet off of something?
yeah.
You
I mean, it might be scripted, but there's still going to be some pain you go through. You can't fall that
yeah,
far, and
yeah.
even
I
if
mean,
the desks are kind of meant to collapse, they still have to have some resistance to them. Otherwise, it's just like
yeah.
you're
I
going
mean,
to hit
even
the
if you
deck.
know you're going to get punched in the face, it still hurts to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
it was, but I absolutely loved it. And then, I read his books and I got to meet him, and just, he's always come across as a super, pleasant
yeah.
person. And always seemed really grateful for the fans that he met and the fans that he had, and
Yeah.
being able to, um, just make a living being a wrestler.
Definitely. You don't hear any stories about him being kind of thinking he's bigger than he is or anything like that. He always seems to have time for everybody and really down to earth, which is nice, I guess, when you consider the heights that he reached. I mean, he was huge. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he was
um,
right. I mean, he was in matches with guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin
mhm.
and The Rock and
Yep,
Triple H, all of them.
he was
And
up there in that kind of bracket of all the top tier guys,
yeah,
wasn't
Undertaker. I mean, all of
he?
those guys who are like classic, timeless names. And yeah, he was in there. And no, he's always just kind of like come across as almost like a big kid,
Yeah.
personally. And you would love him because he in his house he always devotes a room just to Christmas.
Oh, he's gone up in my estimations already. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Right, I need to ask you about this gaming collection. So I know
Okay.
we've spoke about this kind of separately in
Yeah.
our chats and things like that. When did it start? Or what started it?
Uh,
Like,
I
or
mean,
was it just kind of you'd amassed kind of a bit of a collection subconsciously and then just thought, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z? Or did you think this is what I'm going to do?
I get sentimental about things. I restore the first game I ever got was Ghostbusters for the Atari 2600. My parents got it for me for finishing preschool.
Yeah.
That was it.
I had
5
that
years old.
console.
Yeah, and but I loved Ghostbusters, so they got it for me. So I remember that being the first game I ever got, and then they got rid of the Atari, but I got a Nintendo. I was like 5 or 6 years old. I had to have been 5 years old. But we got a Nintendo, an NES, and I loved playing like Mario. Blades of Steel was one of my absolute favorite games. Basically, any NES game you handed me, I play to death.
Yeah.
And I just played it. And that's really when I started to fall in love with video games, was with the NES. And just like, it never occurred to me, and my parents thankfully never asked about it, but it never occurred to me, like, if I got a new system, like when I got the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, it never occurred to me to get rid of the old system, because I was like, there's not, like, the games that are on the new system aren't always on aren't on the old system, or vice versa. The old system isn't on the new system. And so for a while, I mean, it would just stack in my closet, go in boxes in my closet or things like that. And I never really thought about it until probably PlayStation maybe 2. When the PlayStation 2 rolled around in 2000, and I was able to get one, and I just kind of looked back, and I was like, I've still got a lot of my old gear. And you talk to people, and it was funny because, I mean, this is 2000, we're talking about 21 years ago, and you talk to someone, they'd be like, oh man, you've got, Super Mario Brothers 3? And I was like, I'd say yeah, and my friends would be like, we got to play that, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to find all the hookups, I got to hope, you got to blow in the cartridge to hope it'll start. Just all the things that went with it, but a lot, I mean, I had so many memories with it. And then I was like, maybe I'll just start. It was stuff that was always amassed. I didn't really start seeking it out until probably until we actually moved to Arizona. And then, because besides an aunt and a cousin, we didn't have anybody out there. And the cousin that I had, he's a bit older, and he wasn't into video games as heavily. So it wasn't like we could trade stuff, borrow stuff from each other, things like that. It was just, so I was kind of like looking around my game room. I had a game room set up for just those old consoles. And I was like, maybe I could pick up a few things here or there. And I ended up getting Sega Saturn. I ended up picking up a Sega Master System.
Nice.
I had a Panasonic 3DO for a while. The Atari, things like that. Then we started to have kids, and when my wife got pregnant, or was pregnant with my daughter, I knew I was going to lose my game room. So I ended up actually selling 10 of my consoles, just to make room for her. So I don't really regret that. I just kind of wish I had thought more long-term. But I didn't really get rid of anything that now today I'm like kicking myself and saying, like, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that.
That makes sense.
So, it started like super casual, just playing games, and it was always an easy thing, because it was, somebody would be like, what does Mike want for his birthday? What does Mike want for Christmas? Aunts and uncles, things like that, and they were, get him a video game. Just find the cheapest game you can buy and just give it to him, and he'll play it. And that's how it was. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So in your collection, then, what are your favorite things that you've got in there? Is there any that you think, regardless of what happens, I am never selling these 2 or 3 things?
I'm big into the Final Fantasy games, so my Final Fantasy games I'll never sell. I wouldn't get rid of those. Things like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. Final Fantasy Tactics is my favorite game ever. So just having copies of a lot of those and stuff
Yeah.
that goes along with it.
I remember Final Fantasy VII. The box was about an inch thick, wasn't it? It's
It had
like
three.
this
It
big
had three
thing.
discs, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it was thick, and that's how all the Final Fantasies were. In fact, it wasn't until Final Fantasy Origins, which I think was Final Fantasy 1 and 2, came out on the PlayStation,
Mhm.
that it was like a single disc, or it was like that, that just that really slim regular
Yeah.
CD case. Um, but yeah, they were they're all super thick, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'll occasionally like pop them open when if I'm doing the relic of the day or something like that. I'll pop it
Mhm.
open and be like, oh man, this takes me back to, you just looking at a disc, and the PlayStation ones have that black background on them and stuff, and you're just like, oh man.
So
But the
Final Fantasy ones would be the favorites one.
Final Fantasy would probably be they'd be up there, and then the Sega Saturn. That would be like of all the consoles. And it's weird. Like I actually don't and haven't played much of Sega Saturn. It has a special place in my heart for just weird reason. I don't even know. It's just I I loved it. I part of it might be how much people hated it.
I was going to say it didn't really hit the heights, did it? So
It did. It came out. It was when it was launched. It was launched like the day it was announced that it existed was the day it was launched. Like, and so like that was like Sega's camp or like attempt or whatever. But they were like, we got the Sega Saturn and it's in stores today, and it was $500, which 1994 I think was
a lot of money
at the
back
time.
then, isn't
I
it?
mean that's all. Yeah, that's I think that's somewhere around like $800, $900 today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean you were asking, and again you were basically asking for a toy to be that much. And then, but they had some good games. I mean, the original Resident Evil was on there. They had Virtua Fighter 1 and 2, Nights into Dreams, Clockwork Knight, World Series Baseball. I remember being a lot of fun on it.
Mhm.
So it definitely had some good games. It was just wrecked by the campaign that it did, and the fact that Sega like tried to keep putting those add-ons onto the Genesis or Mega Drive with 32X and the Sega CD. People were already kind of losing faith in their consoles, and then putting out basically what equated to a Mega Drive with the 32X and CD attachment, but all in one.
Mhm.
Putting it out and then charging like double for it. Um, yeah, I think that really killed it, and that's
Yeah.
sometimes people ask me to rate a console, and a lot of times they pick Dreamcast, and they'll talk about like, and I'll talk about like what happened with the Dreamcast, despite the fact that the Dreamcast was really a great system, really ahead of its
I
time.
had a Dreamcast. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Dreamcast was wonderful. It was a wonderful console, and really could have given the PlayStation 2 a lot of fight if it hadn't been hampered by the Sega Saturn being so bad.
Yeah.
So,
Was there any kind of piece that you've got in your collection that you've really had to hunt out and took a while to find?
um, I don't have it anymore, but the Panasonic 3DO,
Mm.
that took a lot of searching, not only searching but setting limits for myself, because you can find anything if you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
But there would be people who would want $200, $300 for a Panasonic 3DO, and Panasonic 3DO wasn't a great system, and it wasn't a successful system. Um, So that one, somebody like people would put it out on eBay, and I'd be like, okay, well, this is my limit's like $100. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you'd see it climb to like $200, $300, and you're just like, there's no way. There's no way I can do that. So that one took a little while, and I finally ended up getting one. I immediately plugged it in, played it. I still have one of the games for it, actually. And I was like, this console is rubbish. Like, absolute. It was actually very similar. I had an Atari Jaguar, and it was very similar in that the Jaguar didn't take as long to look for, but I got it, and I was super hyped to have it. And I don't know if you've ever seen a Jaguar controller, but it's like a telephone pad. Like, it looks, there's so many buttons on it, and the buttons are kind of like, the game would come with something you would slide over the buttons so that you knew what the buttons did. There was just so many on it. There was something like 22 buttons on the controller.
Wow.
I mean, it was, yeah. And that's another, and then it had cartridges. It didn't have, they came out with a Jaguar CD, I think, but if I'm remembering right, it would just.
I still remember the ZX Spectrum that I had, that the games were on cassette, and it literally took hours to load. Like, you couldn't save anything. If you died, you started from the very beginning. You could sit for hours, and I think I got a WWF game, and it literally took 8 hours to load. I played it for about 5 seconds, it crashed, and I had to load the full thing again. It was horrible. So now I'm like, this is insane. You just press a button and everything's there. Like,
yeah, that's brutal.
I'm definitely showing my age there, though. Are there any things that are on the bucket list for your collection? So from 2 points of view. So one, like a realistic point of view in terms of price, and one, if money was no object, what thing would you love to have in there?
The N64 PlayStation. That one, the rarity of it, the idea behind it, that PlayStation, that the N64 was going to have a disc drive, and it, like Final Fantasy VII was supposed to be on the N64 with the disc drive, and Nintendo said no, it's got to be a cartridge. And I don't know if it was Square or if it was Sony, but they were like, no, we're not doing it. And Nintendo and Sony went back and forth, and Sony said, we'll just make our own console. So that one, with how rare it is something that, yeah, I definitely would love to have. Is there any way that like we can pause for a second? Yeah, just give me 1 second, because she is here giving me the eye.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. So that's on the like, if the money was no object kind of side of things. What's on the list of things that you've got your eye out for at the minute?
I don't actively collect as much anymore. What I have been doing is I've been putting, I don't know if you've heard of Arcade 1-Up.
No.
They're 3/4 size arcade machines. They have, but usually they have multiple games on there. Like, there's a Street Fighter one that has Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
So once we got the house and I got a basement, I was able to start getting a couple of those, and I found a couple deals. So I actually have 5 arcade machines in my basement.
Nice.
Yeah. So eventually I want to finish the basement and turn it into like a barcade.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, with a little bar area and the arcade machines. And I've got Golden Tee is one of them, and that's like the perfect bar game.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Definitely no room for any more Christmas lights.
I'm not going to argue that much. I'm just going to try and find you.
Yeah, you're going to have to claim that bit of real estate before it gets taken over with boxes.
Yeah, that's I'll definitely have to do that. that's the big thing. I've got a buddy who started collecting real heavily within the
Yeah.
last year. I think like once everything got shut down for COVID, a lot of
Mm.
people are like, I gotta find hobbies.
Yeah.
And so he started collecting heavily, and so he'll text me about once a month, maybe twice a month, and he'll be like, hey, I'm at the flea market. You want me to look out for anything? And so I'll be like, if you can find like just a just a random game, like I'll be like, if you happen to find like Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo for $50, pick it up for me.
Mm.
I'll pay $50 for a cartridge of Chrono Trigger, um, just to kind of say that I have it in my
Yeah.
collection. Um, a lot of it now is like if I spot a game and I remember playing it as a kid, it's nostalgic, and so
Yeah.
I'll kick that in and I'll be like, you know what, I want to play it. I want to pick that up and play it again. And then she happens to remind me, she's like, didn't you build several emulators that can play it on your computer like better than the console
Yeah.
played it? I'm like, yeah, but
It's not the same.
It's not the same. My buddies
Yeah.
and I, we actually just talked about recently. We were like, hey, we should get together, play Nintendo 64 like all night, like order pizzas and stuff, kind of like the stuff that you did when you were like 12 years old or something
Yeah.
like that. And I'm
4
like, yeah,
controllers, Mario Kart,
exactly. A GoldenEye.
beer and pizza. Oh, without a
And
doubt.
then, yeah, it was like the good part is now we could have beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could definitely make this a night. So we're trying to put that together.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
All right. One last one then from me.
Okay.
If you could only play one console for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I mean, I could cop out and say PC because PC could run. I have emulators going all the way up to PS3.
Yeah.
But no, one console for the rest of my life. I'd probably, oof, I'd probably go with the PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2, um, besides the fact that it plays PlayStation 1 games as well,
Mhm.
but well, early PS3 played PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. But I'll go with PlayStation 2. Something, the startup screen, I always, that like sound, that choo, I don't even know how to make the sound, but that sound of it starting up,
Mhm.
and then kind of like the swoop into the PS2 logo. And then that was just some of the funnest memories that I have where I was old enough to understand how games work, like how to play a particular type of game, like JRPGs or things like that. But still young enough that I didn't have all the responsibilities of an adult.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I remember playing, just playing like Madden for hours on the PlayStation 2 because the comparison of PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 1, the jump in like visual quality was astronomical.
So good.
It seems like nowadays, like when you talk about jumping from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, you don't see it too much. They're more about like faster load times and things like that.
Yeah.
But when you went from PS1 to PS2,
you saw the difference, didn't you?
It was like going from a child's drawing to Toy Story. It was just,
yeah,
it was incredible.
It was so good.
Yeah, so I would say PlayStation 2, and yeah, and I honestly don't know what game I would pick if that's a follow up.
There's so many though, but no, that was a really good choice. I tend to agree. That was definitely one where that was one I probably spent the most time on. The PlayStation 1 was kind of, I got kind of towards the back end of it, but PS2 was unbelievable. Well, Third Channel Mike, that has been the quickest hour I think I've had. That was brilliant.
An hour.
Yeah, it's so long, and it just it's flown. And I dare say it could have gone on for way longer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to talk as much as you like.
But I suppose I better we better wrap this thing up. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you. It really has.
Thank you so much for having me on. I know you and I have talked about this, and I've been telling my wife all week. I'm like, Friday at 3 o'clock, I'm gonna be on with 5v4 Gaming, and she's like, "Who is that?" She's like, she doesn't even watch my streams. She does not do any of that. She's like, "Are you playing Animal Crossing today?" I'm like, "No, I'm not playing Animal Crossing." She's like, "I don't care." So then I got to explain. I'm like, I have friends in other places, you know.
Yeah, we got friends all over the world now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's just the incredible thing about Twitch is that I started in February, and since then I've met like you guys. I mean, Mosey, Tom, King Killer Cook, Patriot Lad, Wesley Snipes, just all of you guys, and so many more. Just people. I literally didn't know anybody in the UK before Twitch, and now a good chunk of the people that I talk to on a daily are you guys over in the UK. So
it's strange. It kind of like you'd go from maybe having one or two buddies that you'd play online with to now you've got boatloads, and it's like it doesn't matter where in the world they are. It's like I'm just going to jump on with Mike, who's in Illinois, and Salvation, who's in New York, and Mosey, who's in Hull. Like it's such a brilliant thing just to be able to jump on and play with so many different people.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I'm having such a good time on Twitch. It gets to be one of those things where I'm like, could I make a living doing this? And then she's got to step in and be like, nope.
I think it would be tough, but
not unless something. Well, I admire I know the No Offense. He's doing this full time.
Yeah.
Because he left his job due to COVID reasons, and so he was like, I'm gonna make a run for it, and I'm like, man, I admire you because. But if I was in the position that he's in, then I would absolutely go for it too.
Yeah, same. I mean, we had him on a few weeks ago and we talked about it, and it was one of them ways like I can do it, and I might as well kind of like circumstances have led me to this. I can do it. Like financially, I'm in a position where I can give things a go and not have too much pressure. And obviously, his other half is very supportive of it as well. So yeah, I think if I was 10, 15 years younger, 100% I'd give it a go. What have we got to lose?
But then, if I was
kids are a big risk
and no family, then I would be full-time streamer. That would be on my resume.
Absolutely. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, mate.
Fivey, thank you so much for having me on.